Welcome, my friends. Welcome to the first annual Brooklyn Jewish Historical Initiative Hall of Fame celebration. My name is Jake Ehrenreich. I will be your co-host for the evening. I wrote a show called The Jew Grows in Brooklyn. Thank you very much. What a name for a show. I'm not even Jewish. No, I am. Could you imagine that Brooklyn has become the center of the universe? Right? It's unbelievable. It's so hip. When we grew up in Brooklyn, the center of our universe was a little red rubber ball. A Spalding or a Penzi Pinky. With this little ball, we created a whole world for ourselves. We played punch ball and stoop ball and stick ball and box baseball, hit the penny. We played on our block, and we played in the schoolyard, and we played at the park. Yeah, the park. A park is like a park, but in Brooklyn. Oh, I see. The Brooklyn Park, concrete, chain link fence, steel monkey bars, a litigator's dream. It wasn't fancy, but it was very important. Brooklyn was so important to us. You know, we learned some of our earliest life lessons. Are you kidding? From the older men in the park, we learned style and grace. Is this familiar to some of you? We have Brooklynites here, I see. Ladies and gentlemen, please help me welcome your co-host for the evening, another great Brooklynite, CNN anchor and correspondent, Mr. Samuel Burke.
There's nothing like getting off a train from Manhattan and finding a place where the real estate prices are even more expensive now. I love being in Brooklyn.
That's fabulous. What part of Brooklyn are you from, by the way?
I'm from the Phoenix, Arizona section of Brooklyn. But
I know it well.
I did live here on a couple of occasions with the Rofei family. Very different from Phoenix. In Phoenix, you really have to search hard for a kosher restaurant. And where I lived with the Rofeis, you really have to search hard for a non-kosher restaurant. Very difficult. And the other thing that was a big surprise, in Phoenix, you only ever have a sukkah on Sukkot in your synagogue, in the courtyard. And to be here, living here, and actually seeing sukkahs in people's front yards, I thought they were crazy.
Yeah.
Someone might come and shoot you in Arizona. You never know.
Well, they are a little crazy, but
Yeah.
that's something else. You know, the truth is that Brooklyn is historically important for the entire nation. Americans of all stripes, it's said that 1 out of 7 Americans can actually trace their lineage and their ancestry through Brooklyn.
Including Donald Trump? Queens. No, we're here tonight to honor some of the unique accomplishments of those people who are here in Brooklyn, including former public officials, current public officials, people like former borough president Marty Markowitz.
Yeah.
Thank you for being here. And of course, Congresswoman Elizabeth Holtzman, thank you for being here.
You know, the truth is that the honorees this evening come from all walks of life. We actually have some people from my world, from the entertainment world. We have the great singer Julie Budd is being honored. And the fabulous TV personality and Catskill Mountains comedian, Alan Dershowitz. Fyush Finkel is here. Does Dershowitz look angry? I'll wind up in prison. All right, we better get started.
He's actually on CNN more hours than I am. Brooklyn Jewish Historical Initiative was founded by Howard Teach with the help of Deborah Schwartz of the Brooklyn Historical Society.
The Brooklyn Jewish Historical Initiative, BJHI, was formed to document the tremendous contributions of Brooklyn's Jewish past, as well as to celebrate its present and the future of the very Jewish communities in our borough.
Again, I just really want to applaud and congratulate our honorees. I feel as if I'm in a room full of great, dear friends who have a remarkable history, and I hope that you'll support the initiative and support the work that's being done here, because this history is so deeply and profoundly fundamental to what Bklyn is. So thank you all for being here. Thank you to so many politicians who are here tonight, and to all the other people who are really supporting this. Thanks, and have a great evening.
When Howard got me involved in the BJHI initiative, I started looking at it and looking at the website, and a lot of people that know me know that I'm a writer. I write pretty prolifically. And I looked at a lot of the things that I felt that I wanted to include on the website as the Jewish contribution to the borough, but not only the borough, the world. Because I looked at it and I saw that so many of the people that have come out of Brooklyn's Jewish communities from all different ethnic backgrounds have contributed so much to the world in literature, in art, in drama, in music, in science. You name the field, they came from a Brooklyn Jewish community. And they also came out of the movement of Jewish centers which were, like, for example, like East Midwood Jewish Center, where a building was not just a synagogue, but it was also a community center. It was a swimming pool. It had a school in it. And then that evolved into the community centers that we see today, which are separate from a synagogue and a social hall. So much of what we see today was rooted in Brooklyn's Jewish past and in the schools that we went to. The Sing movement, which is predominant in Brooklyn high schools, was a feeding ground for Jewish people to get into the entertainment industry, to learn about movie making and drama and Broadway and how to put on a production. All of that fed out of being part of Brooklyn's Jewish past. And the Brooklyn Jewish Historical Initiative is putting all of that together so that we can celebrate our past. And it's the only movement that was put together to document what we've done, what we do now, and what our future is. And I'd like to turn it over to Howard.
Hi, my name is Joe Doranson. I'm a Jewish husband, and I'm not used to a speaking role. But I have my wife's permission. She's in the audience. I want to pay tribute to all our honorees, but especially a dear friend and mentor, Henry Foner. Henry Foner asked the 4 questions on April 15th, 1947, to his father, the patriarch, who had 4 outstanding sons, and the grandson of that patriarch is here, the famous historian Eric Foner, America's foremost historian on Civil War. Henry Foner stood up for Paul Robeson at Peekskill. Henry Foner stood up for the working men on the picket line in many battles. And Henry Foner is here today at 96 years old. For those of you who don't know Yiddish, sit next to someone who does. Because I'm going to recite a resistance poem from the battle against Hitler's murderers. Jung is jeder, wer es will nur. Jorn haben kein Bedeit. Alte kennen euch sein Kinder in a neue, freie Zeit.
Hi, I'm Howard Teach, and I got to make an admission. I actually live in Manhattan, but I want you to know I feel rightfully here since my grandparents on my mother's side were from Brownsville, and Pitkin Avenue was something I grew up knowing because everybody lived there, and until I was just leaving the house, my uncle used to go back to the Brooklyn neighborhood every Passover to get all of the Passover stuff. So I feel really attached to Brooklyn, but here's what I really want to give as a message and why we started this, and we actually have initiatives in Manhattan as well as in the Bronx now. people aren't conscious of the fact that in the 5,000-year history of our people, this may be one of the 5 greatest civilizations we've ever had in New York and in America. And it comes because of the freedom we have. And it shouldn't be taken for granted. And we've done lots with it. Not a small amount, but a lot. But people don't really understand or know what we as American Jews have done. And as New York Jews, as you look around to see how we've worked shoulder to shoulder, as Joe just described it in terms of Henry and his family, as so many others have worked with other communities to really make a difference, not only here, but internationally. Well, we decided the world should know. And so we got together and we formed this. We started a website, which you're seeing up here. It's www.brooklynjewish.org. I'd suggest you go to it. It's pretty amazing. Last month we had over 4,000 people coming to the site looking at 38,000 pages. It's growing and growing and growing. Next year our goal is 100,000 people coming to the site. And that would be a good start for an organization that is a few years old. And I must recognize, starting in Marty Markowitz's office, because he was the person I first called. So tonight's a treat. This is new. It's a recognition of the fact in Brooklyn there are so many people who've done magnificent things, not only for Brooklyn, but for the world. And they're here, and we're starting, and everybody said, why didn't you have this one? Why didn't you have this one? Because we got an incredible crowd tonight, and this is going to be annually for the next 100 years, so you better be around. So at this point, I'd like to, if I could, call up just a few people to make comments. One is the great borough president of the borough of, surprisingly, Brooklyn. And I don't have to say more about it because you all know. In fact, probably everybody here voted for him, Eric Adams.
I often talk about Howard, the story of seeing a mother pour water in the glass of her child, and a few tables over, seeing a dad pour soda in the glass of his children. And I talk about what are we pouring into each other. The reason our city and country and nation and globe is going through really social obesity is because we're not pouring the right things into each other. Your honorees today poured the right things into the borough and poured the right things into the people they came in contact with. Their greatest gift is their moment of being present. Being present, that's something that's not often done. Being there to speak and know that a person is hearing and listening to you. Not only were they academically smart, but they were emotionally intelligent. And that's what our borough, city, and nation needs. We need compassion. We need people who are present, people who are mindful, thoughtful, and willing to give a part of themselves so that we can help people over this difficult journey. People are hurting, and hurt people hurt people. And nowhere is it needed more than the experience of the Jewish experience. Always going beyond yourself. Built into your culture is the culture of giving back, of understanding that our presence is being blessed, and how do we share that giving. I'm proud that Brooklyn has the largest Jewish population outside of Israel. I'm proud that what you represent as such. And so you have my dedication and commitment. My experience changed from a police officer, but I still have the energy and compassion when I wore that bulletproof vest and stood on these corners protecting your children and families from homegrown terrorists and international terrorists. That commitment remains the same as a state senator, as the borough president, and whatever I can do in life to be a servant of the public. I'm not elected to be served. I'm elected to serve, and my entire life will go to that service, and you have shown that as your honorees. Thank you very much.
Well, the rest of our city became very, very lucky a couple of years ago when Tish James we took away from Brooklyn. Although she's at home here and everybody loves her in this borough, but we as a city now have gotten an opportunity to see her and just have this enormous admiration for this amazing woman, the public advocate of the city of New York, Tish James.
Thank you. So, I'm an honorary Jewish member of Crown Heights. You laugh, but I represented Crown Heights, right, Marty, for 10 years. And so, yes. And for 10 years during my watch, nothing happened to the children of Israel in Crown Heights because we danced together, we laughed together, and we cried together. It's an honor and a privilege to be here at the very first Brooklyn Jewish Hall of Fame celebration. It's an honor and a privilege to do it here at this wonderful building, which is headed by my very good friend, Deborah Schwartz. I want to thank the Brooklyn Jewish Historical Initiative for making this evening a possibility and inviting me here tonight, and I want to congratulate all of the inductees, but let me shout out a few. So Marty and I have had some good days and some bad days. But I love him dearly, and now that Eric is gone, he was a great borough president. I miss him. To my Rabbi Potasnik, for making me laugh, yes. For always making me laugh, sometimes through the tears, he's made me laugh. And today when my heart is heavy, I know I can always go to him for a laugh. Of course, to Senator Schumer for his courage and for his leadership. In his absence, let's give him a round of applause. And to his lovely bride, Irish in her own right, Irish Wineshaw, who has taught me and all of you about the importance of higher education, and because of her public service, let's thank her. And I know that there's others, but there's one that I particularly want to give a shout out because the reason why I went to law school is because of him. The reason why I graduated from law school and decided to become a defense attorney is because of Alan Dershowitz. And so, as many of you know, it's really critically important that we tell the story of the Jewish experience and about all of the contributions to American culture, and that we never ever forget. As most of you know, recently I traveled to Israel. And as I traveled to Israel, I cried. I cried because some of my hosts, as we went to a part of Israel where it was very dangerous, they had to hide who they were. They took off their yarmulkes and they hid them. And I did not understand that as someone who was new to Israel. I did not understand how you would have to hide your identity. As an African-American woman who has tasted the sting of discrimination, I cried because I never want anyone to ever have to hide who they are in their identity. And so I visited Yad Vashem and I cried. I cried for all of those 6 million Jews who's lost their lives. I remember, though, on a happy night dancing at a bonfire. That was amazing, an amazing experience. And I remember praying at the Western Wall for peace. So I pray for peace tonight. I pray for peace for the children of Israel. And I wish you all a blessed evening. And may we all celebrate tonight. God bless you.
Now, the city council is very fortunate because we know we have a voice. And when the times got tough for our community and people spoke out, there was someone who spoke out for us, loud and clear. Everybody heard it where others weren't there. That's City Councilman David Greenfield, if you'd come up and say a few words.
Thank you very much, and thank you especially Howard and Serena for your leadership. And I just actually want to plug the website. I think you certainly should check it out, brooklynjewish.org. It's chock full of amazing information. And thank you, Deborah, for hosting us here once again. You know, I was just thinking that for a lot of Jewish kids, especially the boys, growing up, you want to make it to the Hall of Fame, Cooperstown, which in the Jewish community is genetically challenging for us. But here, now we have our own Hall of Fame in Brooklyn, and that's something that's really exciting for all of us. And so thank you to the Brooklyn Jewish Historic Initiative for making this happen. On a personal level, I will just say that, for me, it's a humbling experience to be here tonight. The folks who are being honored here tonight, all of them really, I know, have inspired me, and so many like myself, as Tish mentioned. We could literally go through each and every one of you in the way that you've made a difference in ways that you probably had no idea in the lives of millions of young Jews, and we're really incredibly grateful for that. So thank you, all of you, the dozen of you that are being honored. It's really something that's exceptional. And I did just want to give a special shout out to those of you who, if I'm correct, still live in Brooklyn. And so Rabbi Joe, thank you. America's rabbi, of course. Thank you so much for your great leadership. Rabbi Mordechai Tokarski, for the great work that you do. Thank you very much. Of course, dear friend Joe Shami, thank you for your leadership in the Sephardic community, the work that you do. The former elected official and esteemed attorney, Liz Holtzman, thank you so very much for your inspirational leadership and glass-breaking historic work that you did as an elected official. We're very grateful. And of course, Brooklyn's most powerful couple, no offense to Bill and Charlene, it's still Chuck and Iris. And so thank you so much, Iris, for the work that you've done. But I will tell you that there's a lot of great people in this room, but Brooklyn would not be Brooklyn without one person. That, of course, is Marty Markowitz. And so Marty, you know, I was telling Marty the other day, it's funny when you think about it, so many Jews in Brooklyn were spending their lives trying to get out of Brooklyn, and now everybody's trying to get back into Brooklyn. But Marty made good right here in Brooklyn, and he made Brooklyn great, so thank you very much. And so I want to thank the Brooklyn Jewish Historical Initiative. I want to thank all of you for coming out, and I really want to thank all of the honorees for inspiring the next generation of Jewish activists and leaders. It's really a privilege to be here. Thank you very much.
We'd like to begin our celebration of the honorees with the Hall of Fame Awards. Our first inductee is United States Senator Charles Chuck Ellis Schumer. You could still applause. So Chuck Schumer was elected to the United States Senate in 1998. He became New York's senior senator when Senator Daniel Patrick Moynihan retired in 2000. And in the year 2006, he appointed Chuck to serve as vice chair of the Democratic Conference. And Chuck has done so much more. He grew up in Sheepshead Bay, and tonight he's in session in Washington, so he's unable to be with us, but he did supply us with a video of his own words. And here it is.
Hi, this is Senator Chuck Schumer. I'm really sorry I can't be with you tonight in Brooklyn. I'm in Washington because the Senate's in session, but of course, I am there in spirit, Brooklyn spirit. And most importantly, I'm represented tonight by my fellow honoree and better half, my wife, Iris Weinschall. Obviously, I'm filled with nachas and truly honored to be inducted into the Brooklyn Hall of Fame, and clearly I'm in good company. Now let me tell you, when I won my seat in the Assembly, my mother thought I was Meshuggah. Why didn't I use my Harvard Law degree to get that $400 a week job instead of running for the New York State Assembly? When I won my seat in Congress, she thought, well, maybe this is working out. And when I got back to the Senate, she started to invite me back over for her delicious kasha varnishkas. But, seriously, this award may make her finally realize I made a good life decision. Tonight's inductees represent some of the best and brightest from theater and television, academia, business, labor, government, and the Jewish faith. And best of all, they're from my beloved Brooklyn. I'd like to acknowledge my former colleague in government, Mr. Brooklyn himself, Marty Markowitz, and my longtime and dear friend who grew up in the fancy part of Brooklyn on Argyle Road, Chuck Diker. Often, I like to say that I'm from Brooklyn. Sometimes it helps me, sometimes it hurts me. But if I tried to be anything else, I'd be worse than whatever I am. And that is so true. I'd like to congratulate my fellow inductees and thank the Brooklyn Jewish Historical Initiative for the great work they do in documenting the past, present, and future of Jewish life in Brooklyn. And have a great night, everybody. And as we say in Brooklyn, let's have many more simchas together.
And Jake, in true CNN fashion, we have breaking news. Joining us on stage are going to be Rabbi Gary Pollack, Ellen Levitt, Judy Greenwald, and Ron Schweiger, the borough historian. They're going to be helping us escort people on stage, people like Julie Budd. She's one of the most exciting singers on the scene today with a career that ranges from television to film. Come on down. From television to film, along with New York stage and symphonies all over the United States. She's a Brooklyn native. She appeared on over 100 Merv Griffin shows, The Tonight Show, and Entertainment Tonight. Her current album, Remembering Mr. Sinatra, is a major hit, and she's being considered for a Grammy this year. Congratulations. I guess I'm not going to win the Grammy this year.
No, well, you never know. Ladies and gentlemen, our next honoree is Professor Alan Dershowitz. Alan Dershowitz is my friend. He's also an American lawyer, jurist, author, and political commentator, prominent scholar on the United States constitutional law and criminal law, and a leading defender of civil liberties. A political liberal from Brooklyn, he's the author of a number of books about politics and law. He spent most of his career as a professor at Harvard Law School with a Felix Frankfurter professorship. Alan Dershowitz.
Our next inductee is Charles Diker. Mr. Diker is the managing partner and chairman of Diker Management, as well as the chairman of Cantel Medical. He's the first chair of New York Smithsonian National Museum, as well as, chairman of New York Smithsonian and the National Museum of the American Indian. He is a trustee at Brooklyn's Poly Prep Country Day School, as well as New York Public Radio, and a former trustee at the Guggenheim Museum and the Brooklyn Academy of Music, and of course, a native Brooklynite. Congratulations.
Our next honoree is the one and only Fyush Finkel. Fyush Finkel is an American actor. He is best known as a star of Yiddish theater and for his role as the lawyer Douglas Wamba on the television series Picket Fences. Born in Brownsville, Brooklyn, on stage at age 9, he then made his way to Broadway in the original 1964 production of the musical Fiddler on the Roof. Fyush has won an American Comedy Award, an Emmy Award, and an Obie Award. Fyush Finkel.
He's just cool.
He's just cool.
My parents love him. My
Just
generation
cool.
loves him. Our next inductee is Henry Foner. Mr. Foner is a social activist and former president of the Joint Board of Fur, Leather, and Machine Workers Union. A native of Williamsburg, Brooklyn, he serves as president of the Paul Robeson Foundation. He served as vice chairman of the Liberal Party of New York, on the editorial board of Jewish Currents magazine, and editor of Work History News, a newsletter of the New York Labor History Association.
Our next honoree is the Honorable Elizabeth Holtzman. Hi, Liz. Liz Holtzman is an attorney and author on politics, former 4-term member of the U.S. House of Representatives of the 16th District, and she was the first woman to hold office as the New York City Controller and the District Attorney of Kings County, New York. Born in Brooklyn, she co-authored a memoir in 1996 entitled Who Said It Would Be Easy? One Woman's Life in the Political Arena. Elizabeth Holtzman.
You may have heard of our next honoree, Marty Markowitz. He is Vice President, Borough Promotion and Engagement at New York City's official tourism and marketing agency, NYC & Company. He was a state senator for 23 years, Brooklyn Borough President for 3 terms, where he was Brooklyn's most avid cheerleader, promoting mainstream tourism and events such as his well-known summer concert series. Congratulations.
What was the name of that summer concert series?
Go ahead.
Forget about it! Our next inductee is America's Rabbi, Rabbi Joseph Potasnik. Sure. Rabbi Joseph Potasnik currently serves as the Executive Vice President of the New York Board of Rabbis, Rabbi Emeritus of Congregation Mount Sinai in Brooklyn Heights, co-host of Religion on the Line on WABC 770 AM every Sunday morning, and chaplain of the New York City Fire Department. He is a lawyer as well as a rabbi, receiving his Juris degree from Brooklyn Law School. Rabbi Joe Potasnik.
Our next honoree is Joseph Shami. He's a Brooklyn-born philanthropist and member of Brooklyn's Sephardic community. I hope I didn't offend you.
Yeah, brach.
Co-president of Delta Enterprises and one of the world's most renowned manufacturers of cribs and baby furniture. Mr. Shami serves as treasurer of the Sephardic Community Center and is project education board member. Congratulations.
Our next honoree is Rabbi Mordechai Tokarski. Rabbi Tokarski is a Jewish educator and community activist in New York. A refusnik, he was born in the former Soviet Union and is one of the first Jewish educators from the former Soviet Union to be educated in the United States. In 2006, Rabbi Tokarski helped found Russian-American Jewish Experience and is currently the national director of the organization. Rabbi Mordechai Tokarski.
Iris Weinschall is our next inductee. She was appointed Vice Chancellor for Facilities Planning, Construction, and Management at the City University of New York in April 2007, after having served the City of New York for more than 25 years, most recently as Commissioner of Transportation. A Brooklyn native, in 2000 she was named Alumna of the Year by the Brooklyn College Alumni Association. Mazel tov.
Ladies and gentlemen, the one and only Marty Markowitz.
Thank you very, very much, Serena. Thank you, the committee, and Howard. You're a piece of work, big time. I have to tell you, he doesn't let you go, I have to say, but he is dedicated, and tonight is an example of the great work that you do. I must tell you, being Jewish and getting an award, I mean, to me, I'm so used to providing the awards to every ethnic group in the world. And then suddenly, how do you choose Jews to get this award? Meaning, our population of hundreds of thousands in Brooklyn, to say the least, and almost every one of them deserving of being recognized tonight. It is unbelievable. I guess the best way to summarize it is being Jewish is special. It really is. To me, it means everything to me. The only time I felt a little differently is when I visited Israel, and all of a sudden, so I'm a Jew, so what's the big deal? It's a big deal. Now, Brooklyn, as you know, we're doing very good. This borough, I must report to you, the Jewish population is increasing, and that's all good, and joined by the great ethnic groups that are part of the mosaic of this great borough and city. It makes each ethnic group very, very special. But I must tell you, Tish, when I grew up, in Crown Heights, I thought everyone was Jewish, everybody. Everyone followed Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, so help me. We knew that African Americans lived north of St. John's Place. From St. John's to Lefferts Avenue in Crown Heights was Yiddishkeit. And then from Lefferts Avenue to Winthrop Street were Italians. And we knew that the Irish were in Park Slope, and we knew that Caribbean Americans were on that end of Brooklyn. We know we're Polish a little bit, and the other ethnic groups, but I must tell you, Brooklyn today represents the entire world, and the contributions that Jews have made, and our numbers are small, but my God, what great contributions we've made and will continue to make for all the years to come, and that's what makes us special. Thank you very, very much.
Former Brooklyn Borough President Marty Markowitz. Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to ask each of our honorees to say a little something about themselves and about Brooklyn. We'll do somebody from this side and somebody from that side. Iris, would you like to begin?
Well, first of all, I want to thank everybody. I'm really delighted to get this award, and I guess I'm the first married couple to get the award. Of course, it's the first set of awards, but that's okay. So I was born in Brooklyn in the Midwood section, and my dad and all my uncles were cab drivers, and my entire family lived within, I would say, a 10-block area of each other. And in my mind, Brooklyn was like a village, and it even wasn't in my mind, it was in reality. I could walk 5 blocks and see this aunt and uncle, 5 blocks and see my grandparents, and growing up, it really was a very special experience for me. And someone mentioned before about still living in Brooklyn. Well, Chuck and I celebrated our 35th wedding anniversary, and for all those 35 years, we've lived in Brooklyn. So I'm really proud of that. And I just want to acknowledge that my daughter is here, Jessica, and she just moved back from Washington, and of course, she lives in Brooklyn now. So we are multi-generational in Brooklyn, and I just want to say that it's a delight to be here, and I'm truly honored to be with all of these great New Yorkers and Brooklynites. So thank you.
Great. Thank you, Iris. Just full disclosure, I would still live in Brooklyn if I could afford it.
I just want to say a word about my brothers who have been so important in my life. My brothers, Philip, Jack, Mo, and of course, my wonderful nephew, Eric, who is here with us tonight. And I want to thank all of you for joining in this remarkable event. Thank you very much.
I'd like to thank everyone for this beautiful event and for choosing an honoree from amongst the Russian American Jews who represent such a large part of the Brooklyn Jewish community. It's a mosaic that really adds to the community as a whole. And at Rage, we try to develop the young people of the community to help them fulfill the American dream and their full potential, and to build a beautiful, free community that is the postscript to their Soviet Jewish experience where we were oppressed. It is so wonderful to find our freedom here in America.
Can you sing your response, please?
I want to thank everybody for this wonderful honor, especially Howard Teach for inviting me here today. It's a thrill and an honor to be amongst all these outstanding Brooklynites, how successful and outstanding they all are. You know, wherever I go in the world, I mean, it could be Paris, it could be Tel Aviv, it really doesn't matter. You know, people say to me, where are you from? Oh, you're from New York, right? You know, they listen to me. You're from New York. And I go, I'm from Brooklyn. And first of all, there's always somebody, even if I'm in Paris, that says, oh, you know, my aunt lived there. Or, so there's always somebody that's, you know, it doesn't matter where I've ever been. But really what defines a place, Truly what defines a place are the people. The people is who lives there, the heartbeat of the town, the people. And I think Brooklyn, New York has some of the greatest people in the world. I know you agree. And I'd like to dedicate this honor for me tonight to my mother and father, Oliver Shalom. They would be beyond kvelling thrilled if they could be here tonight. So thank you very, very much, everybody. I appreciate it.
So I think back to when I was a teen and I was going out in the city, and if someone asked me, so where are you from? I'd say, New York. If they really pushed me, I'd say, Brooklyn. Just wasn't sexy to say Brooklyn. But today, thanks to Marty, thanks to David, thanks to Eric Adams, thanks to our representatives, Brooklyn is the hottest place in town. It is the place. Williamsburg, Park Slope, every neighborhood that you name, Brooklyn is it. And thank you very much for setting that up. For myself, Brooklyn, I should say, I want to accept this on behalf of my entire community. The Sephardic community was able to grow in Brooklyn because of its neighborhood, because of its character. We were able to have our homes right next to each other. We were able to grow. We were able to walk to our synagogue, to our yeshivas, to our community center, etc. It would never have happened in Manhattan. It would never happen anywhere else in the world. Brooklyn had that special character that kept us together. I was able to meet my wife, who's also from Brooklyn, and we're married 33 years now going on. I want to thank my mom, my dad, for all that they've done for me through the years. I remember the days in going to Prospect Park, the paddle boat days and paddle boat things in the lake, Coney Island. It's just very, very special. Thank you, everybody, for coming here, and it's very special to be amongst these phenomenal people. I feel very special.
Professor, I've given up so much airtime to you on CNN, and now I have to give up the microphone.
Well, thank you. I was born in Williamsburg, and I moved to Borough Park, and then I went to high school in Crown Heights, 4 blocks from Ebbets Field, which got me into a lot of trouble because I would cut school and go to Brooklyn Dodger games. And I was a bad kid from Brooklyn. I grew up as a bandit. And my high school principal, I went to yeshiva, Orthodox yeshiva. My high school principal, Rabbi Zuraf, called me in one day for, a little career advice. And he said, Dershowitz, you got a big mouth, but you don't have too much of a brain. He said, you should do something where you use your mouth a lot, but not your brain. He said, I have 2 suggestions. He said, 1, you could be a lawyer, or 2, you could be a conservative rabbi. That was the worst insult. He couldn't even pronounce the word reform. I wasn't smart enough to be a rabbi, so I became a lawyer. I also want to dedicate this to my mother and father because I gave them so much service, so much trouble. But my mother had a career picked out for me. There was this store on 16th Avenue and 50th Street, and there was a guy in the store who was a notary public and insurance, and that was my mother's goal. I should have a store in Borough Park where I could do automobile accidents. She wanted me to be a lawyer, but she wanted me to be a Borough Park lawyer. I disappointed her. I moved to Cambridge, where I stayed for 50 years, where Liz was my first student and a great student, and where I had the privilege of teaching 10,000 students. Like you, I wanted to, when I moved to, and you, right, good. And when I moved back to New York, when I retired from Harvard, I wanted to move to Brooklyn, but like you, I couldn't afford it. So I had to live in Sutton Place. It is literally true that Sutton Place is now cheaper to live in than Brooklyn. So congratulations, Brooklyn, for really doing great things and making me so proud.
Thank you. Dershowitz became the lawyer. I became the conservative rabbi. So thank you so much. Let me firstly say I turned to Fyush Finkel before, and I said, you should live to 120. He said, wait a minute, I'm getting very close. So try to extend it. This is an unusual experience for me. I'm used to speaking in a synagogue. I've never seen people sitting in the front row. So thank you so much. This is a great night in Brooklyn, because this is the night when so many Jews are asking themselves, why do they get it, not us? I remember years ago coming to Brooklyn from Boston, and I was taught at an early age, be brief. And I went over to someone who was visibly Jewish, and I said, tell me, in one word, how are things? He said, good. I said, oh, okay. In 2 words, how are things? He said, not good. So the truth is, this night is very good. And let me simply say the following. I came here from Boston. I'm a child of Holocaust survivors. My parents are not living. They lost 5 children during that horrific period. I'm a child of their second marriage. So I arrived in this borough, began with Congregation Mount Sinai, and never left. I've been with them for 43 years and no contract. So I come here, and the same salary. And I come here to say thank you. Thank you not only for the award, which is very special. I want to, Howard, you are a very good friend. Serena, thank you. Thank you for all you've done for the Jewish world. But I want to say thank you because as an only child with not much of a family, you really took me in. And you made me a member of your family. Became a proud member of the Jewish community, proud member of all communities. And I think all of us should learn this lesson if we haven't already. You can be a proud Jew and a proud American simultaneously, and you don't have to apologize for either. So thank you very much.
Hi, I'm Chuck Diker, sitting here with this distinguished group of people. I feel like a bit of a fish out of water, but I'm here. I was born in Brooklyn in 1934, lived on Washington Avenue, right across the street from the Botanical Gardens and a couple of blocks away from Ebbets Field. And that was my team. That was my extended family. I knew every one of those players, and the spirit of Brooklyn was very much in the Dodgers, and you can see what Brooklyn was when it came to a baseball team. There's no sports organization in the country or in the world that had the spirit or the personality the Brooklyn Dodgers had. And you can see that as they went to Los Angeles, they were never the same. So to me, the Brooklyn Dodgers was my extended family. I became Jewish. I learned about my Jewishness at the Brooklyn Jewish Center. At the age of 13, I learned about opera because the cantor at my bar mitzvah was the so famous Richard Tucker. And it was a great experience for me. I then had the privilege of being accepted at a school called Poly Prep Country Day School, which had 30 acres of great facilities in the borough of Brooklyn. I learned everything I needed to get into Harvard College and Harvard Business School at Poly Prep. And the amazing thing about it was that with a name like Diker, I was going to school in a place called Diker Heights. And that was quite an achievement for someone who didn't have any. Everyone thought my grandfather had developed the area, but it was misspelled. It was D-Y and I'm D-I. Anyway, I owe a lot to Brooklyn, and I would like to say that I think the word Hamish was developed in the borough of Brooklyn. I think it really is what Brooklyn's all about. It's a Hamish place to live, and it really gave me soul and gave me everything I am today. So thank you for inviting me, and Howard, I appreciate your invitation, and I thank Chuck Schumer for mentioning me on his tape. Thank you very much.
Thanks very much. I want to thank the organizers of this event for their leadership in doing this. I'm very proud to be here as part of this first inaugural group and with my colleagues here today. You know, when I was growing up in Brooklyn, you couldn't really be arrogant if you came from Brooklyn, because if you admitted it, people would look at you, not the way they look at you today and say, oh, Brooklyn. That was like you were it's not exactly at the bottom of the heap, but you weren't really at the top of the heap. And so that taught us a little bit of humility, which was a good thing to know. I grew up on Ocean Parkway when there was still a bridle path, and went to Abraham Lincoln High School, where, all right, let's hear it for Ocean Parkway. And when I went to Abraham Lincoln High School, that's where I got my political career started, because my brother ran for president of the GO, and I ran for vice president of the GO, and that was the good beginning, and we won. Big time. But the good thing about Bklyn was that my extended family, my great aunts, my grandparents, all lived very close by, so that I was exposed from the get-go to all the wonderful strengths about being Jewish. And so, living in Bklyn, you could easily reflect those Jewish values and absorb them and live them. But what really made it easy to be a Jew in Bklyn was that you were living next to non-Jews, and that didn't make any difference. Our neighbors were Italian, and they loved my grandmother, and our families, and we lived next door to each other without any animosity and with respect. And so that's what I take from Bklyn, that it nurtured the individual identity, but the ability to live in peace with your neighbors. So I'm grateful to Bklyn for that wonderful background. Of course, now Brooklyn's changed quite a bit. I think I'm the oldest person getting out of the subway at my subway stop. So things have changed quite a bit, and we have great restaurants now, not just Lundy's down in Sheepshead Bay. Some of you might remember it in the good old days. But I hope this is just the start of a lot of wonderful things in terms of acknowledging the great strength of the Jewish community in Bklyn, the wonderful contributions that Jews made to this borough and the world, but also in the context of a very diverse borough, which people respected and shared with each other regardless of ethnic background and religion. That's what I see Bklyn as. Thank you.
What am I, the last one? Last but not least. May I say this? In all sincerity, you talk about Bklyn. I was born in Brownsville, Brooklyn. My son that is here, Elliot, was born in Bklyn. My other son was born in Bklyn. We are complete Brooklynites. And God has been very good to me to let me have 93 years. Yeah. Of course, with this audience, it's no big deal. Half of my life is over. But Bklyn means a lot to me. I started my career in Bklyn, in the Yiddish theater. I was 9 years old. There was a theater on Hopkinson Avenue and Pitkin Avenue. I was a child then, and I've been in the Yiddish theater till I was 43 years old. Then I went in, don't applaud, I'll need it later. And then I appeared in the American theater. You know, God has been good to me. I always thank God, believe me. I've been in the American theater, television, movies, and I'm a very proud person that I could say I'm Fyush Finkel and I'm Jewish. Whether you like it or not, I told these producers, you will not change my name, you'll change the picture. I am Jewish, and I remain Jewish, and I love being Jewish. I let the whole world know that I'm Jewish. My grandfather was a shamus. He was a shamus in the shul. People came over to him for favors. I'll never forget, one man came to him on a Wednesday evening for a minyan. He was saying Kaddish. And he says to him, I happened to be there at the time, and my grandfather says, Anaya Michigan. I can't get them Saturday. He's once Wednesday night. Look at him. The man said, look, mister, he said to my grandfather, I'll give you $50, get me $1 million. 1937, dear ladies and gentlemen, $50 was pretty nice money. He couldn't think, where's he going to get the people? But he said to the man, look, I have $1 million. You and I are 2. 2 and 2 is 4. Together we'll be 6. We'll look in the mirror, we'll have 12. So the man said, gee, that's wonderful, but I heard you only need 10 for $1 million. He says, good, we'll walk away, let the others daven. And I can't leave today without reciting a poem of how I feel with this great honor here that we have today. Really one of the greatest honors, and it'll be with me in my heart for the rest of my life. So please, let me recite this poem, if I may. It's 3 wishes. And I would say, I wish I had a telescope to scan the starry skies. But since I have no telescope, I'm glad I have 2 eyes. And I wish I had a kitchen run by push-button commands. Oh, well, but since that kitchen is still a dream, I'm glad I have 2 hands. And I wish I had a Rolls Royce to give you, my friends, a ride or treat. Maybe it'll be a few months later, but until that Rolls Royce comes, I'm glad I have 2 feet. I have a telescope with eyes to look to God above, hands to clasp in prayer, and I have feet to take me to my house of worship, to the synagogue, whenever and wherever I want to go. So, ladies and gentlemen, may I say this real politely and modestly, you're looking at a millionaire. Thank you for everything.
Ladies and gentlemen, our 2015 honorees. Please give them a nice round of applause.
We would be pleased to send a complimentary DVD of this program to anyone who wishes to support JBS, the Jewish Broadcasting Service, with a tax-deductible gift of $36, BJHI or more, to the nonprofit organization Jewish Education in Media. Simply visit the JBS homepage and click on the Donate button to make a donation by PayPal or your credit card. And please indicate the program for which you would like a DVD. Or you can send your tax-deductible check made out to Jem, Post Office Box 180, Riverdale Station, Bronx, New York 10471. And again, please remember to indicate which program you would like to receive with our compliments. And we thank you for your kind support.